they meant a couple of things by it. They meant what you just said about finding out what's really important in life. In this book, The Myth of Normal, I interview a young man called Will Pye, who wrote a book called Blessed with a Brain Tumor. You know, what kind of blessing is that? So I asked Will, what's the blessing? And he said, it made me appreciate every moment. It meant every time I talked to somebody, I knew this might be the last conversation I'm going to have with them. So it better be a human, genuine interaction. So there was that aspect of it. The other aspect of it was that, again, my view is, as I pointed in this book and in previous works, who gets sick and who doesn't isn't exactly accidental. There are certainly personality patterns based on traumatic experiences in childhood that make disease more likely. And people very often realize that throughout their lives, they had abandoned who they were. They lived a life that wasn't meaningful for them. And on death, they reconnected with themselves in an authentic way. And that seemed to be worth a lot to people. Again, I don't recommend that way of going to reconnect with yourself, but people have I certainly saw it. So those are the two big lessons.
After your 33 years in medical practice, you described that you had you kind of tuned into a creative calling, which was writing.
Well, I began to write when I was a physician. So okay. My first book on ADHD, after I was diagnosed with it, was published in 1999 now. So that was 23 years ago now. So I began to write. And even before then, I wrote, because I wrote columns for newspapers. But yes, there was a time in my life where the writing impulse, which had been with me all my life, was stifled and stymied. And so was I. Because I had this frustration. In fact, I had this sense that there's something I needed to express, but I didn't know what and I didn't know how. And at some point I realized, oh yeah, I need to write. So that began before I finished medical practice, but it certainly has been essential to my ongoing unfolding as a human being.
I was so compelled by that when I read about that, because I've started to really understand the value of creativity in all of our lives, regardless of whether we have the luxury of being called an artist or not. And so what, in your view, is the importance of
Well, you're singing my tune here, if I may say it that way, because I quote in this book, there's a great Hungarian-Canadian stress researcher called János Selye, S-E-L-Y-E, and Selye is the one who actually coined the word stress in the sense that we use it today. And he's the one that showed in a laboratory how stress diminishes the immune system and disorganizes the hormones and ulcerates the stomach and all this kind of stuff.